Good morning, Bears. Happy Monday. It is a science week, and we happen to be in the science periods today, 1 through 4, to kick off our week for your Zoom links. And if you are in Zoom, that is fantastic. We'll take a look at a little bit from last week's work. Also, we will check some slideshows and make sure everybody knows how to submit their projects. Go to grades, click the links of the ones that don't have grades. Make sure you submit your projects. All right, let's get started. We are into metabolism, lesson 3 through 7, week 2. We are solving the problem of Alicia, if you remember, our little patient that is tired all the time. We did a little research. Turns out she gets plenty of sleep. Turns out she's eating right. So what's the problem? We made some predictions, but today we're going to do some more testing and another sim to find out what exactly happens with food. And when we take in nutrients and oxygen, how do those molecules get into the cells? Because the cell is where everything happens. The cell is where things get processed, changed, gives us energy. That's what metabolism is. So we're going to dive into that and then come up with a basic step-by-step flow of starch through the body and its transformation. That's Monday's goal. The big overview goal, every slide here, if for some reason you see this on a Tuesday or a Monday or you're out of town, not a problem. You can self-teach yourself by walking through these slides, playing with the simulators, and watching my daily lessons. So where is this located? Remember, we are in courses. We are in science. We are opening up our metabolism, week 2, lesson 3 through 7, and that will take us to our slideshow. Oh, and don't forget about groups. Groups will have this video and the basic lesson. Using SIM, create step-by-step list of what glucose does in the body. And that should say starch. Let's fix it right now. I'll give you a little clue there, but what starch does in the body. Top slide, as always. So this is our day's goals. Let's get going. When we get to CERs, you can always refer to this slide to help you. Our FIST essay, our CER essay. We've talked about that. So let's get going. We know the cells need oxygen, glucose, and amino acid molecules, and we know that the body gets these molecules from food and air. Now we want to figure out how do molecules from food and air get to the cells in the body. We saw this a little bit in our sim machine. Here's another chance to look at that again and do a little work. So let's come back to our sim machine, which is here. A little hard to see this. Let's go present. And this does give you some guidelines if you click present and get bigger. That we're going to launch the metabolism simulation, select healthy body, and select observe. Now this is important. Feed the body sandwiches, which has a mix of molecule types, and focus on what happens on starch. So this is kind of important. Turn off all the molecules except for starch. So let's try this. Heading into our... Don't forget, if you are an iPad, say yes. If you're not an iPad, say no. You may get prompted to log in with your school account. Make sure to do that, or else it will not work. If it does not work, if you have glitches for some reason, keep in mind they show the videos in some of the slides. I also have a video in ours, so you could actually watch the video, but it is much better to play with it. So we have healthy body. Reload healthy body. Yes, I guess it was already clicked it. We want observe. And here goes healthy body. Now remember, you can pause this. Now once you pause it, remember what it said. Let's take off everything but starch. So we don't want proteins. We don't want amino acids. We don't want fiber. We don't want glucose. We don't want oxygen. We don't want carbon. We don't want water. Why? It just makes it easier for us to follow along. Then you click play. Now we've done something like this before. Oh, we have to feed the sandwich. Let's go ahead and feed a sandwich. And now we're going to watch through this. And, ooh, which way is that going over to? What system is that? Watch what the starch is doing. Is it still starch? Yes, I don't see anything changing there. Now we might be able to speed up the pace here. Okay, so here we are in our sim, remembering that you can take things away. I did modify the lesson a little bit. I think we want to identify protein, amino acids, oxygen, and starch. And we want to see what happens to the starch as it goes through. Let's feed a sandwich, or we can reset. Let's go ahead and reset. reset, start over, observe. Okay, so we've got something going on here. Let's bring in the sandwich. Now, if you've got all three going, you have to kind of track. So it just went down in here. I know we already did this as far as in general, but now remember we're focusing on starch, protein, amino acids kind of go together, and oxygen. So I would do one at a time. So let's get rid of everything again. So let's see what happens. Came in through the mouth, and we click play, and let's see where that goes. So this is the starches in the digestive system. How do we know that's the digestive? We click it, and there they go. Stomach, digestive system, and we can speed this up if you want, ×2, and guess where it goes? Looks to me like going right out of the body. I don't see anything getting absorbed through the digestive system strictly from starches. Do you? So that would be your description, right out the chute. Then we come back, go back to full size, hit pause, and let's go get rid of starch, and then you would hit oxygen, and then find oxygen. And remember, our goal right now is, let's go back to our slide, create step-by-step flow of starch, protein, amino acids, and oxygen through the body and its transformations. So what happens with starch? We just saw it. Goes through the mouth, goes into the stomach, goes in the intestines, goes out into the toilet. Did not see it go anywhere else. Now track protein. Now protein, we'll call that protein and amino acids because protein breaks down into amino acids. You can track that, see what happens there. Track oxygen. And then you could do another couple of sets if you want, but just do those three. And then pay attention, if you want, do one with everything unclicked and what molecules end up in the cells of the human body. That's what we want. Not a CER, just list them. What molecules end up in the cells of the human body? So once we check that off, let's have some time and get that done right now. With that investigation, we should have a better idea of how do molecules from food and air get into the cells of the human body. We'll see that glucose, amino acids, oxygen, they get transported to every single cell in the body. And now the sim in the model, it doesn't show everything that happens in the body. The alveoli in the lungs and the villi in the small intestine are structures that allow molecules from food and air to pass into the bloodstream, which is part of the circulatory system. So let's check that video out. Let's go to present.
The villi and the alveoli. Let's take a closer look at each of these structures to find out what they do. Villi are part of the digestive system. They are tiny finger-like parts that line our small intestines. Inside the villi, we can see tiny blood vessels. Looking even closer, we can see the cells that make up the villi walls. Molecules from the food we eat can pass through the villi cells into the bloodstream. Watch how these glucose molecules are moving into the bloodstream. This is also what happens with molecules of amino acids. The bloodstream carries glucose and amino acids to every cell in the body. Now that we have seen the structure of the villi, let's take a look at the alveoli. The alveoli are part of the respiratory system. They are located at the very end of the branching tubes of the lungs. The alveoli are tiny sacs covered in blood vessels. Looking inside the alveoli, we can see the air from each breath. We can also see red blood cells. Let's look even closer. These are molecules of oxygen in the air we breathe. The oxygen molecules can pass through the alveoli into the red blood cells. The bloodstream delivers the oxygen to every cell in the body. Even though the villi and alveoli are found in different parts of the body, they have similar functions. They are both transfer points for molecules to enter the bloodstream. The cell membrane is much smaller than the villi or alveoli. However, like the villi and alveoli, the cell membrane is a transfer point for molecules. The cell membrane allows certain molecules to enter and leave the cell.
All right, that's a good little video just to show us how oxygen gets into our cells, and you can use that with your metabolism modeling tool. So now we want to learn things by doing it multiple ways. So we have our chart here that starch you should know how to do now, protein, amino acids you should know how to do, oxygen you should know how to do, pretty easy. And you just use your sim chart to fill it out. And then now that you have that information, we're going to put that into the model. But let's go over some of our key concepts here. Body systems, the molecules that move through them, and whether they are small enough to get to cells. They have to be small enough to enter cells. Not everything can enter a cell. The respiratory system brings in oxygen molecules from the air. Oxygen molecules are already small enough to fit in cells. They do not need to be broken down. Key fact there. Digestive system brings in food but does have to break it down, like glucose and amino acids that can fit into cells. Circulatory systems transports glucose, oxygen, and amino acid molecules to every cell in the body. The circulatory system, very important. And now, of course, like we said, we have our modeling tool. Take a look at that, and let's go play with that and actually place things where they need to be. So let's watch the video. This is kind of fun. It can be a little confusing, but I don't think that bad. We'll just play with it a few times and see what happens. Our goal to help Alicia with research.
This is the Metabolism modeling tool. You'll use it to show your ideas about the molecules that can be found in a healthy cell. Read the instructions by clicking the button at the top left before you get started. You can view them anytime if you need a reminder. On the right are the molecules you can use to model a functioning cell in a healthy body. You can drag any of these molecules to the model to help share your ideas. Once you are done, remember to select Hand In. If you change your mind or make a mistake and want to start over, use the Undo, Redo, or Start Over buttons.
That's pretty cool. I like it. So this is basically going to back up what we're learning about in, get out of here, in the list when we do our chart. All right, let's dive into our model. Click here. Remember, once again, you might have to log in to our beautiful Amplify Interactive. And so here is your instructions if you need help. But what are we doing before we hand this in? We're showing what happens and what gets into the cell. We want to show what gets into the cell. So notice this. Does oxygen go into the stomach? Maybe. Mouth? Maybe. Lungs? Maybe. Cell? Maybe. You tell me. So we need to set this up. Now, it breaks down to produce. Let's check that. So, as we saw with the starch, we've already kind of done that one. Let's do that one together. Where did starch go from the mouth? Did it come to the lungs or did it go to the stomach? Went to the stomach. That would be step 2. Then the starch went into the small intestine. That would be step 3. And then the starch went bye-bye down the toilet. And that could be step 4 if you want. And that's all the starch did, if I remember correctly. Now, use this arrow if something breaks down. So when we talk about glucose, there's some things that might break down with oxygen or glucose. So you can use that arrow when a molecule changes and gets broken down to get into the cell. So you can also use that arrow if you need to drag that somewhere. So you're going to try to do that, recreate glucose, follow that through, oxygen, follow that through, and see if you can follow the process. And then don't forget to hand in. Slightly a test here. We haven't tried this yet. Let's see what happens when you hand it in. All right, let's get started on that. Wrap up. You should have some good information from that cellular activity to show the path of the way you communicated the path of starch, glucose. Now, what's happening next? What is happening in Elisa's body that could be preventing molecules from getting into her cells? That's the issue that we're going to dive into tomorrow. What is happening in Elisa's body that could be preventing molecules from getting into her cells? You don't have to do anything right there. We're just thinking about it. We'll start lesson 4 tomorrow. So quick recap. You should have this flow chart. What does the starch do? We just saw it in the video. Just label the steps it goes. Do that for protein and amino acids. Do that for oxygen. Then you're going to come down here and you're going to show that, and you can use the sim anytime you want. Just jump onto that sim and watch things. That's how we're figuring this out. You're watching the sim. Jump down here. We got some information in the video, and we are going to create, using this modeling tool, you're going to label exactly what is happening to things in the body. Don't forget to hand in. All right, that's your wrap up for the day. Let's do this. All due by the end of class today, if possible. Let's go.